I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you. Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Justin Bosack. Justin's the owner and partner of REMAX REVOLUTION, founded in 2018, and there's 160 agents with 2 offices and 14 staff. There's some very impressive numbers here, Justin. I want to really kind of focus on you and your story, and then kind of get to those numbers maybe as we go along. But first, I just want to say thanks for coming on the show today. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
And let's just start with your background. Tell us about yourself. Tell us, kind of where you came from and what got you into real estate.
Sure. So I've been in real estate for 20 years now. I'm 42, so started pretty young. Working as a teenager at McDonald's. Went to college for accounting, figured out within the first year that was something that I wasn't really interested in. I liked business, I liked numbers, but accounting wasn't going to be the thing. Took a job at a company called Aldi's, quickly worked up to become a store manager. Was putting in probably about 70 to 80 hours a week, and that included a drive time about an hour each way into the city in North Jersey. So that growth in that position was capped pretty young. And, I figured out in order to be a supervisor, I needed a 4-year degree. I was making good money, but I figured this is not the life that I wanted to live. I did a report in high school about what do you want to be, when you obviously graduate or finish college. And I did include real estate on there. And that was something that obviously didn't have to technically go to college for. But I figured, let me give it a shot. Let me give it a try. I do want to do something in sales and in business, and jumped in and loved it immediately.
Awesome. So you were 22 when you started in real estate?
Yeah, I got my license at 21, and right as I was turning 22, I started working with my first company.
Tell me a little bit about, kind of how that start is, because I know, a lot of people, once they get their real estate license, I feel like you hear a lot of, success stories and, became the highest grossing agent and all of this stuff. But like, what's the beginning like? Because I've also heard people on, the other side that just couldn't break into it. So tell people about kind of how that start went for you.
So I broke in with a company that was kind of changing the way real estate was done. It was a discount brokerage, and you just need your license to work there. But to start, I was pretty much just on the phones, answering calls, setting appointments, and things like that. I figured that's a good way to get into the business, get a secure salary, and be able to kind of learn. Obviously, at 21, 22, you don't have a ton of people around you saying, "Hey, sell me a house." You're pretty young, so I figured, let me go learn. Let me see what I can do. Immediately, they had like ranking systems and stuff for phone calls and conversions based on phone calls coming in. And they were actually creating like a group to just handle sellers all day. And I knew that the best of the best from the world in the company was going over to that team, and I was ranking really high. And it was only like 2 weeks in, and I said, okay. I mean, I understand I can't get over there because you guys already started that. I'm just going to stay after work and then just hang out and then just learn. And from there, I jumped over to that team, which is pretty much cold calling all day, and cold calling in the New York area, so Queens, Manhattan, Brooklyn, as well as North Jersey, which is probably one of the toughest areas in the country to cold call, especially if you're calling from Jersey, at the Jersey Shore. We didn't have any connections really, or I didn't have any personal connections up there. So it was just conversation based. And then from there, they opened up things to have buyer's agents, because at that time, the company only had listing agents. They did not have any buyer's agents. So interviewed for that, and didn't get it right away because they wanted to keep me as a cold caller because I was good at it. But I just kept pushing, and they finally relented, and eventually became the top buyer's agent in the company.
Awesome. Awesome. And a couple of, I think important things there for people listening is you got into a company that sort of wanted to work with, but maybe didn't feel like you were in exactly the right position for yourself. You didn't quit, you didn't, sort of give up, phone it in, that sort of thing. You figured out a way to make yourself more valuable to the company, and then, sort of move up or move to a different position from there. So I think, a lot of people might have come into that situation and said, oh, this isn't the right place for me. I can't get the, exact position I want right off the start. But realizing that, putting the time in, you stayed after work to learn. I mean, there are things that you can do to make yourself more valuable to a company, to move up in the ranks, if you will, and kind of get that, it's a momentum play, really. It's not like you need to go from uh, the starter position up to, sort of CEO in one move, but you do need to look to creating value within that company. So as the as the buyer's agent, that's all you did, was just represented buyers then?
Correct. All
Okay.
day, every day. So the listing agents in the company at any given moment would probably have 80 to 100 listings. And they pretty much would go in, sign a listing up, and then from there, there's a transaction coordinator, and then you had the original position, which I had, which were the new business consultants that would handle the servicing of dealing with the clients. And you had even somebody that would negotiate. They were called a negotiator. So the listing agent would go in, and that was it. That was probably the last time that you pretty much hear from the listing agent. So I mean, it was something that I didn't want to do, because also I knew the other end of it, where I was booking the listing agents' calendars, and I knew like they were like nonstop, didn't have control of their day at all whatsoever. So I knew going into it, and they had asked me to become a listing agent. I was like, no, I'm good. I'll be I want to continue to be a buyer's agent, because I had control over my calendar.
Yeah, and I mean, as I've never been an agent, but I've been I guess, a buyer and a seller, and sort of seen, sort of both sides. And I think depending on the market, I suppose one side or the other might need more help. And what time, where was, like, what year was this, or what years kind of approximately?
Yeah, so 2004 to 2007. So
Okay.
2007, I was pretty much doing like 50, 60 buy deals a year, which is insane. I still don't even know how I did it. I mean, it was literally just go, go, go all the time. Um, but yeah, it was, I didn't know any better, and I just knew I just wanted to work hard and, provide for my family. But, that was until the day the company decided that they were going to close the doors, and literally, in one quick move, just laid off the entire company. I guess the founders saw the writing on the wall for the economy. And at that point in time, the company, which was called Foxton's, very big company in London in the UK. So they were trying to obviously make the transition to the United States. But yeah, they were only profitable for 2 months the entire time they were open. And it was a good concept, but they had too much overhead. There was too much corporate overhead that was involved, and there was too much dead weight at the bottom as well. So you had agents that were maybe doing, I don't know, 10 or 12 deals a year, but getting a salary, getting a company car, laptop, and cell phone paid for,
Yeah.
but they weren't really working hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So, 2007 is a an interesting time in, economic cycles, and we hit the Great Recession right after that. So they closed the doors before the recession, I guess, technically hit, but sounds like your founders had some idea of what was coming.
Yeah, yeah. I think London had started to shift um, pretty much before. So I guess he saw the writing on the wall. And yeah, I mean, we had 400 agents. So everybody got laid off except the top corporate staff. And then what they did was, they ended up like selling off like the listings and the deals to another company, which
Mhm.
is crazy. So yeah, we had to start over from scratch. And I knew at that point, as a buyer's agent, I knew, well, where am I going to get my leads now? Because all the leads were coming in pretty much inbound from people calling on our listings, and I didn't have any listings. I had a couple of buyers that I was working with, so I can continue to work with them. But I needed to put together a team to pretty much, reinvent kind of what they had. So I called a bunch of the agents. I actually hacked into the system to get, because they locked us out of the system too with all of our data.
Yeah.
One of the vice presidents never changed his password. The initial passwords they would give you was simple. It was like BOS, which is the name of the system. He never changed his password. So hacked into the system, got everybody's data, and just started sending everybody their what we called valuations and all their contacts and stuff like that, so they can go try to get that business back. And was as I was doing that, I was asking agents, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay in the business? Like maybe we can kind of go to the same company and kind of have that team concept that we had of having a listing agent, having somebody cold calling and getting setting up the sellers with the listing agent, and then obviously I would deal with the buyers. So it was like a fight or flight thing, and put together a team of 6 agents, and we all kind of came together, went to the same company, and then executed. And then at that point in time, the market started to shift. We ended up focusing on short sales because that was a new thing in the market. Nobody knew really how to do them. So we figured, hey, we're kind of new and on our own right now, so let's do something, and really cut our teeth and broke in doing that.
That's great. I there's a common theme here, as seems that you're very resourceful and sort of made the best of challenging situations, right? So a lot of people in real estate around 2007, 8, 9, 10, that so we're just completely out of the business or just sitting on the sidelines waiting, but you found the opportunity there with short sales to create value for homeowners, and then also for yourself, for your company. So what kind of happened from there? How did you grow and scale that over time? Because now we're 2000, we're over 10, 12 years.
2012,
yeah, we're 10 and 12 years and away from that, in another uncertain market cycle. Kind of what did you do? Because I think a lot of people are thinking about this. What do I do now? What do I do, kind of over these next couple of years? Not that every market downturn is the same, but I think, being resourceful and just finding a place to make it work is probably applicable to every situation like that. So what did you do kind of as the market was recovering?
So, we were obviously cold calling. So as a agent too, I was making calls as well, just trying to get business. And we were really the only ones like in our area to, number one, have a team, and number two, that were really cold calling. We would talk to other agents, and like that wasn't really a big thing. And that came from us working in the company. We're like, this is what makes things move. This is the action. And most of the agents were just lazy. They would come in, they would ask us like, oh, how are you getting all this business? And we would show them, but they would not do it. They were used to coming in and like selling jewelry and like, going out to lunch and stuff like that. And we were just very business minded. So we then, like, I wanted to get into new construction. I was always fascinated about that part of the business. So I had done a couple of deals in new construction, and worked really hard with the builder to kind of put this deal together and manage the buyer. And I showed up and was at the location like a ton of different times, and the builder said at that point, he's like, I really like you, I really like how you're making this easy for me as a builder in dealing with the client. And I just felt like, well, wouldn't everybody do this? But
Right.
That wasn't the case. So he said, I'm going to give you a listing. So I started working with that builder. Then from there, there was I was pulling comps for a buddy of mine who just closed on a commercial property, saw a big commercial property parcel of land closed, and we found out it was going to be built, new construction, like 15 home subdivision. So we pitched our hearts out to get that. We had never had a new construction development, so we really didn't know what we were doing. We just knew like the buyers at that point, like we were late 20s, early 30s. The buyers for that community were going to be in that same age range. It was my demographic, it was my market, it was around the block from where I grew up. So we pitched our hearts out, and because of a previous relationship with one of my business partners as well, we were able to secure that business. They were ready to give that to another broker, and he had been established in the business forever, one of the big time guys. And because of the combination of me working with the top builder in that town, who was really just doing spot lots, our age, our demo, the marketing that we were doing for other clients, we were able to get that business. And then from there, that ended up landing us like our white whale. which is one of the builders that we work with today, and pretty much primarily what I mostly do. He does probably about 50 to 60 builds every single year. And we met him just walking through the open house at that site. I was sitting there one day, and I'm a friend, comes in, I'm a friend, I'm not looking to buy, I'm just a friend of the builder, and he was just very humble. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, nobody else is here. Let me show you like all the models. Let me show you what's going on. And I was very excited to show him.
Yeah.
And he's like, I really like you. He's like, I have a house that I'm actually building right now, not far from here. He's like, would you like to come take a look at it? And I said, okay, yeah, let's meet up. And then, lo and behold, he ended up going from spot lots to a bunch of new construction. So, I mean, we were just able to kind of take advantage of business each step along the way. And because of that, we were building some notoriety in town. We had branding because we're a team, and, we were doing a lot of marketing and advertising. So we had a lot of agents that kind of wanted to come and join us. So we grew the team from 6 to I think about 12, probably by 2012. And that we were like the top team really in our area. But again, there wasn't many teams back in the day that were working in the business. Now it's like it's a huge thing in this business.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it sounds like, I mean, I was never a realtor. I don't know exactly all the inner workings, but I mean, it sounds like what you're saying you were doing then seemingly other people were not doing, but it's kind of like almost like you created the mold, because now it's what everybody looks at cold calling and as marketing as kind of maybe the most important piece of business. And so I think one thing really stuck out to me there too is in a couple of instances, what made you successful or made you get these clients was just being easy to work with. And I think that gets like really gets overlooked by a lot of people. You said it perfectly. You're like, well, why wouldn't I do that? This guy's like, oh, no one else is. And it's kind of like, it's sometimes so odd to me that in business people don't think like, well, how would I want to be treated as a customer of this business, and then do that, right? Like do that as the business owner, even if you're not the owner, as the employee of that business. Like, how are you going to generate more business is by making it a good experience and easy for people to work with you. And it sounds like you just did that, probably because that's just your personality, and that results in success. And it's like, it's very simple, but people don't do it. It's not commonly, sort of a common path that's followed. So that's cool. I mean, good for you. And I just kind of like that message a lot. Just the ability to be someone who people just want to work with, and kind of make it a pleasant experience, which again sounds so simple, but like it's surprisingly lacking.
It's purely simple. I mean, when I was working as a buyer's agent and, really at the top of the company, I was telling buyers not to buy houses. I was telling them everything that was wrong with the houses so they can make a right decision. And the ability to do that, information consulting, that was able to land them as a client, because the stats are really, I think it's like 90% of the buyers that see a home for the first time, like that's not going to be the house that they buy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just numbers. So to me, it wasn't about the house. It was about the person. It wasn't about the sale. It was about the relationship. And if I could build the value of, hey, this house needs this, 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 and this, and now it needs about $30,000 worth of work. And I saved you the time and effort and energy to figure that on your own, to go through the process of a home inspection and the heartbreak of the deal falling apart because the seller doesn't want to make those repairs that you purely could have seen, but most agents they don't really want to do that. They want to just show you what's nice. Like, look at the granite, right? It's like, they know what granite is. That's not a big deal. The deal killers are obviously when a house doesn't appraise or you run into home inspection issues. So I found if I could find my client the right house, and even if they decided they wanted to buy the house that had the issues, that's fine. They at least knew what those issues were ahead of time, then the deal wasn't falling apart. And if the deal isn't falling apart, then I can be more efficient with my time. And if I'm more efficient with my time, I can go find more buyers that appreciate, that same energy, and then, do more deals versus, your chances of getting a retained client when a deal falls apart, it's probably about 50%. because life happens. They might blame you, right? They should always blame you, honestly, because you're the glue for everything.
Right.
You refer the mortgage broker a lot of times, the attorney, the home inspector, and if you didn't catch those things or they weren't aware of it, you just wasted their time. So my focus was it may take me longer to find the buyer, the right house, but when I do, that deal's going to close.
Yeah. No, it's great. A great message. And it's just universal across business. Here we're talking about being the buyer's agent, but like it's universal across business. Cutting corners, skipping steps, that doesn't actually save any time in the long run. It really doesn't. It's that stuff still has to happen. So maybe it saves you a minute or two, but it doesn't put you in a good light. And so I just yeah, I love that approach to it. I love that approach to the business and your clients. And it's ultimately, like you said, it's about them. It's not about just closing this one transaction. And ultimately you've increased the likelihood of closing the transactions, and at the same time increase the likelihood that they will come back to you for the next one, refer you to their friends, like all of that stuff. Like you're building that long-term relationship that can result in multiple transactions, and not trying to just get one thing done and make a little money here. Like you're looking at it from the long term. So I love that approach.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's really where the success lies, because if you're in the business and for 20 years, the most amazing
Right.
thing is when those clients come back to you and they refer you more clients, and then of course they're going to be clients that are probably more like them, and
Right.
more like us, that kind of will gel with you, and you can kind of create relationships that are just beyond a transaction. You really go out and you have a good time together.
Yeah.
And the transaction doesn't even seem like there's a lot of stress or effort to it, because everything is just it's more natural, which is, the success, I think, of how myself and then my team and even, a lot of the agents in the company are able to do just more transactions, and
Mm.
it's just having that mindset or that approach, because again, if you sell that person, a house that's a piece of crap, right? They're not going to be happy about that, when they find out, like, oh, and I hear it all the time. Oh, my agent pushed me into this. I never should have bought it, and I come in and educate them, and they know, well, the next time you're going to make a decision, you're going to have all the information and it's going to be your decision. It's not going to be me pushing you to buy anything. I come in at a more of a consult than a sale, and if you go about it that way, and that's the key, because the biggest problem is this is solely commission based. So a lot of the realtors feel like I just have to get the next sale so I can move on to the next deal, but that is the absolute wrong mindset, because when those deals do fall apart, you're guaranteed nothing. So all that work and all that effort that you put into it, you didn't do a good enough job, to make sure that that was the right situation for that person. Well, guess what? Those you're going to have over and over and over again, those deals fall through. And there's so many agents that have been in this business that just still haven't learned from that. They just hop back on the treadmill and keep going at it the same way and figure, hey, if I can do 10 or 15 transactions, I can stay in the business. But they're not growing. They're still cold calling to this day. I haven't cold called in like probably 8 years, right? My clients cold call me. It's based on referral. I'm doing all this new construction. So that's the part where people don't understand. If you do a good enough job on the front end and build that foundation the right way, you're not going to have to worry about business. You're going to turn around and you're going to get an email or DM or a phone call, and it's just going to be, that base, that foundation that you built that just keeps on revolving to give you new business.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And especially that's especially apparent now, right? When there's times like now, when there's a market downturn and there aren't as many transactions to go around, and it's not, where, there's tremendous bidding wars and things like that. Like 2 years ago, it was a lot easier to make money in any industry, really, right? Like everything was booming. But when those downturns come, that's when that foundation that you've laid is really going to come into play. Like a lot of places are going to close, or they're going to stop being agents or whatever it is, but you're still able to continue because you have a good reputation, a good foundation. You're getting, your referrals and clients. Like, people are still doing business, people are still buying houses, but not at the rate it was. And so now the people that stood out are the people that are going to get that business.
Absolutely.
I think it's just it's a huge, to me, it's just like a huge lesson for people in whatever it is, in any business, real estate, so it's always it's always a customer service. I don't generally like the saying the customer is always right, because I think sometimes that goes to an extreme and people um, allow customers to abuse them or their staff, things like that. But it is always a customer service business. Like, every business, it's a customer service business in some way. And if you don't recognize that, it's going to be hard to stay in business or scale and grow.
Yeah. So, I mean, that mindset, I think, is what sets us apart. And then really the reinvestment, into our company and into our business. We became broker owners just because we were pushing to do a lot of different things in the business that our broker owner didn't want to really allow us to do, because she felt like, hey, if I let you do this, then it's going to make me look bad in the other offices. And we were like, that's not it's on
Not your
us. We're taking
problem.
a risk,
Right.
like,
Right.
we're going to
Yeah.
hire the transaction coordinator and pay him. We just need you, to write the check. We're going to push the money your way. You're going to hold it back. You're going to pay us less, but we just need you to cut the check. That's really it.
Yeah.
And doing things like sign installs, and having somebody to do Matterport and drone, just because we felt that those are things that would benefit at that time the sellers, and it was more money for us to do it. But we had always, like, going back to even our Foxton's days, professional photography was always the thing. This is going back to 2003. Now, when we got into the new company, which was Century 21 in 2008, those agents were not doing professional photography, and most of the market was not. So I could see them like, wow, this is why the buyers were coming to us, because they just had a better experience. So what we did is, the guy that actually trained me to be a buyer's agent, when they wouldn't let me be a buyer's agent, he was the first one. I'm like, let me ride around with you. He ended up being a photographer because he couldn't drive around at night anymore because he had a vision issue. So he got into photography, and now he's like the biggest photography, videography company here at the Jersey Shore. He grew up with us. We were his first client, and we were doing professional photos, and then we started doing videos and doing drone back in 2009, 2010, when it was a down market, when agents were getting out of the business. We still made the effort, even though we weren't really making much money, to make sure that we were spending the money to market and advertise ourselves as the best in the business. And this is what we offer, because most agents weren't doing it. So, we're always looking, what's the next cutting edge thing that can give the client an advantage? Obviously now it's like social media is one of the big plays. So, we've built some different things for the agency to, make sure it's easy for our agents to create some content, with their listings. And, that's the key. And even with bidding wars and the market's great and this and that, agents still are not reinvesting back, or they weren't. Now this year, because volume is down, now they're like, oh my God, I got to do marketing and advertising to try to get the business. And I'm like, it's too late.
Right.
Those years
Right.
to do that were 2020 to 2022. If you weren't reinvesting now, it's too late, because now you're marketing and advertising. You think you're the only one with that thought. A lot of the other agents are popping their head up and saying, volume's down, I got to do something, and doing the same thing. But you guys are now all fighting for 50% less business. Meanwhile, the good years, guess who was getting all that business? The people that were marketing and advertising. So, that's the thing, is mindset, and knowing that for the future, because who knows what's going to happen over the next couple of years with the market. You have to know you can't just turn marketing and advertising on and off. You have to commit to it. It's got to be a long-term play. You got to be willing to brand, and you've got to be able to lose money. The first years that we were doing something called Real Marketing, which was a mailer campaign to neighborhoods, just pretty much giving them an overview of everything that's happening in that neighborhood. Not a cheap thing to do. It was like $1,200 a month, to do it to 600, 700 homes, but in a defined area. and you were lucky to break even with the first year. I was saying that's fine. I'm just going to keep pushing. As long as I break even, that's fine. I'm having conversations. I know in the future it's going to just get that much easier, and then
Right.
it did.
Right. Yeah. Makes total sense. I love the approach. I think it's very smart overall, and I think it's at these market downturns is when it's going to really prove out that just how smart it is. So it's great that you've sort of been doing that all along. So good. Justin, I'm going to switch gears so I can get to ask you the questions I ask every guest. The first one being based on the name of the show as Know Your Why. So what is your why? What drives you to, sort of continue to grow and succeed?
So over the years, it's kind of changed. So I have a son now that's 9, going on 10. He has autism. So the why is really to set up his future. And everything that I'm doing right now, I know in 10 years when he's 19, 20, when he's done with school, I know that I'm going to have to spend more time with him and figure out a way to kind of reinvent myself at that time. Because how am I going to do real estate, run a real estate company, run a real estate team, and have to hang out with my son? And it's not that I have to hang out. I want to hang out with him because I know that, school is going to be done with, and I just don't know what that's going to look like. So the plan right now, is really based upon that. I do a lot of, charity community stuff, that also revolves with special needs for that reason. And, it's not really for money, because I've been putting a lot of the money back into the business. We could have taken a lot of money, but it's to build a legacy that's beyond just the company name and a brokerage. Reinvesting into properties and buildings and figuring out a way that potentially I could retire at some point. Not have to worry about running around. I grew up and in an area that was a poor neighborhood, probably one of the poorest neighborhoods in my county. And I've always wanted more, out of life. And again, it's not all necessarily based upon money. Money's a great thing to make so you could actually, help people. And the why is really just to help other people with special needs, and then also help, the agents within the company, build businesses and hopefully change their lives as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. The money's the tool to make the other things that are driving you a possibility or a reality. I mean, that's it. It's like it takes money. Ultimately, money has to come from somewhere to pay bills so that you can stay home with your family. Like that's really, or grow charity and things like that. Like there is some level of money that has to come with that, but it's not, it's purpose led, I guess, is probably the best way to say it. So tell us something about yourself that isn't common knowledge, special skill, a hobby, kind of anything to let the listeners know you better.
So recent hobby, buying and selling sports cards. I have weekends off now,
Yeah.
and which is great, but my mind, keeps going 24/7. So, obviously when COVID happened, you couldn't really do much, so we're doing real estate in some capacity, but that market kind of took off. So I always enjoyed sports, and that was a way for me to get back into the hobby that I had done as a kid and make some money. I think eventually I want to get back into racing. So I would, drag race back as a kid, legally and illegally. But at some point, I'd like to get back into that. My son loves driving, and we go on a lot of different car rides. I had to buy a Jeep so I could slow down, so I didn't worry about getting tickets and, for safety reasons, which is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to get back into the car realm at some point too, when I have more time.
Yeah, that's cool. What do you have a particular focus in cards, or are you just kind of across sports?
Basketball, baseball, football. So football is pretty much investing into quarterbacks, and baseball is a lot of the prospecting. So there's some formulas to kind of make some money. A lot of that is great grading cards, which is a concept that came after I got into the hobby as a young kid. It really didn't exist, and now it's a huge thing. But that allows you to take a card, and if it grades a 10, you could probably 4x your money on it. So understanding what cards to buy, and looking at them and knowing that it's a good card, because there's a cost to grading. But that's what keeps me kind of moving. I feel I have ADD, so I have to do something. And, that gives me some time, a couple hours on the weekend here or there where I can just mess around.
Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. When people hear this and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so if you go to Justin Bosack, Bosak.com, it has all my links to all my social media, email, text, YouTube, everything is there.
Okay, cool. We'll put that in the show notes for sure. Final question for you, Justin. You can kind of take this in whatever direction you want, but basically, the question is, what piece of advice would you give to someone starting out? And so I think you can take that in the direction of, starting out in real estate, starting out in business, whatever you feel most, passionate about.
Yeah, so starting out in real estate, I'd say start with a team. Start with somebody that has way more knowledge than you and may not have the time that you have. So listening to podcasts is also a great way for you to learn. And, it's something I tell my agents all the time. A lot of them don't listen because they're just busy doing whatever they want. But I can tell you a lot of the things that accelerated our business from being a team to now a brokerage was learned from different podcasts over the years. If you're looking to be successful in any business, it's pretty much the same thing. Finding somebody that's willing to take the time to maybe mentor you or talk to you, and you have to provide value back to them in some way. So, whether it's, hey, I'm going to intern, work for free, help you do something, to help your business, but, teach me the ropes. It's got to be something where you're exchanging value with each other and be patient, be patient, at the same time, push, but understand like the money doesn't come right away. And anything that you do, it takes a couple of years to get off the ground as an entrepreneur. And, I feel like if you have that patience, but you have the mindset of where you want to go in the future, and you can look out 5 years, 10 years, 20 years to where you want to be, but at the same time, knowing that it's going to take a while and you're going to have to suck it up and figure out a way to survive, and one of the biggest things I tell agents that are coming into the business now is that make sure you have reserves of like 6 months to maybe a year for your bills to get off the ground. I do that to scare them a little bit. Not everybody needs that reserve if you're coming onto a team, because I can kind of get you linked up within a couple months to get some deals in your pocket. But in real estate, it's commission to commission. There's no safety net, and a lot of agents want to have these side jobs or do things on the side, but all that is delaying your success for the future. If this is what you want to do, you almost have to like cut the cord and just go all in. But you have to make sure you're with the right team, right mentor before you do that.
Yeah, no, it's really a great sort of mindset to be in too. Like anytime you're going to take that leap into commission based or entrepreneurial type jobs, start your own business, whatever it is, you do want to have some financial safety net, whether that's reserves or as you said, sometimes people maybe you're starting a side hustle and you've got a W-2 job, whatever the case may be, you got to remember that you probably need money to come from somewhere. But at the same time, like, you need to be pretty dedicated to getting going, or it's just going to take twice as long to get really established in whatever the business may be. So yeah, super cool. Listen, Justin, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Thank you for sharing everything. I really do love your perspective on kind of the business and just being that person that people want to do business with, because I think it's a really underrated skill, a personality trait to have. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing what you did.
Thanks for having me, Jason. This is great.
Yeah, awesome. And folks listening, I know you're going to get a lot of value from this episode. So please like, rate, and review so we can get more great guests on the show like Justin. All right, have a great day. I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you.